It is a poorly kept secret that gravel race bikes are pretty rad all-around road bikes. With Orbea having split its gravel line into adventure and race like so many brands these days, the Terra Race falls firmly into the gravel race bucket with low stack, a low bottom bracket, a max 45 mil of tire clearance, no storage in the down tube. It's got a 71-degree head tube, so it's stable at speed, but aggressive body geometry, so you're not catching excess wind on the road. However, the short 420mm stays mean that for at least some of us, our heels can hit the rear derailleur when coasting downhill at speed when the chain is down on the tin. And the front 50mm rim looks cool, it's fast, but you can definitely feel blustery side winds, which can be unnerving at speed. I have not yet raced the Terra Race, but I've ridden it quite a bit down here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, on sand, on dirt, on gravel, and on a fair amount of road. I took this bike with the Albuquerque Yacht Club, a local cycling club, around the mountain, a ride I did in a recent video on a Cannondale Synapse. It may be icy, but at least it's steep. Whoa. Oh. This is the smooth cadence portion of the ride. Oh, that's greasy. Oh. I never dabbed. I never put a foot down once. What are you talking about? If you are new to this channel, welcome. I worked as a cycling journalist for 25 years before starting the ride a couple years ago. I've tested more than 100 gravel bikes at this point, and unlike some YouTube channels, no, I do not take money from bike brands for bike reviews. If you subscribe, that helps me out. I appreciate you taking a second to do so. As with other Orbeas, you get a ton of customization options with the Terra Race. Choices of paint, choices of design, choices of cranks, choices of cockpit configurations, and a choice between two saddles. In this video, I'll get into the details, the good, the bad, and the questionable, along with my ride impressions and comparisons to other bikes. You ready? Let's go. Quick shout out to Silka. They've been taking care of me all year with maintenance supplies like the Ultimate Sealant, which comes in the big tall boys, and the travel size, which is nice when I'm, say, working out of my mother-in-law's casita down here in Albuquerque, and I needed sealant for this bike. Was able to just pop holes in the tops of these and run the sealant in through the valve stem. I took a picture which looked like I was putting sealant on the chain. Just a terrible photographer. There's a bit of carbon fiber in here that helps clump up things. So if you live in a place or you happen to be visiting a place for long term like I am, which has, you know, cacti and goat heads, the bane of many riders' existence, having sealant that plugs these holes is a positive thing. I've also been washing the bikes here in the alleyway. If anybody has any recommendations on brushes, I would appreciate that. I've got an old set that my dog chewed on that I've been using for like 10 years, but shout out to Silka. Thanks for taking care of me. If you need wax, you need sealant, you need cleaning products, I'll put a link to all that good stuff down below along with the discount code. All right, let's talk labels. Let's talk numbers. Let's talk feels. Also, we'll talk models and prices and comparisons to other bikes. For labels, the all-road category and the gravel race category are mushing over quite a bit. All-road's going up to like a 40mm tire, and gravel race is a 40 and here, max 45mm tire. Similarly, the type of riding many of us like to do is blurring the lines between road rides, gravel rides, with a lot of it being mixed surface rides, for which, as I said, a gravel race bike is a fantastic tool for the job. The all-road category includes bikes like the Giant Defy, Trek Domani, BMC Road Machine, or the NV Fray. The gravel race label includes bikes like the venerable Specialized Crux, the Factor Aluto, which I just reviewed. There are limits, of course, to all of this. If you ride and race exclusively on the road, then a gravel race bike will have far too large tires. The geometry won't quite work as it sits a little too low, and the gearing will be too small. Similarly, on the other end of the spectrum, if you just want to ride chonky chonk gravel where you need a big or you want a very large tire like something that would fit in an Allied Able or an Ari Schaefer, then a gravel race bike is not that tool. And yes, there are plenty of other gravel bikes that take a bigger tire, like the Salsa Cutthroat that's been around forever. Those fall into that gravel adventure category where you've got a much more upright position. I love the feel of a gravel race bike, in part for the body geometry of how I can sit on this bike is very similar to how I would sit on a road bike. Gearing. Y'all know I love the 13-speed SRAM Explorer groups. The red is the tippity top, then there's the Force and the Rival. Orbea has models with all those three, I'll get into that. They also have models with 2x options for GRX, both Di2 and mechanical. If you don't have a derailleur on here, you can have a chain catcher, which I have not needed, knock on wood, on other Explorer bikes, but it can't hurt to have the thing. Most gravel bikes with Explorer come with a 40 ring, which I feel is a little too small, especially if you're doing a lot of riding on pavement. This is a 42. You can have any cassette you like, as long as it's the 1046. On the Around the Mountain ride with the Albuquerque Yacht Club, I had adequate gearing for almost all the ride. Definitely the flats, most all of the climbing. Where I ran out of gear was on the top end coming down the paved road from Sandia Mountain. We didn't go all the way to the crest, but we descended for maybe a couple thousand feet in one go. And I was lighting my chamois on fire, pedaling at like 120 RPM, trying to stay on the wheel there. So I could have used a bit of a bigger gear, but that's, you know, kind of the far end of the spectrum. For my taste, a 44 with a 1046 is a great all-around gear. Your mileage may vary. We're seeing a whole lot of SRAM on gravel bikes these days. These guys are doing a big push for sure. I'm also a fan of Shimano GRX. They had a lot of stuff out early that now SRAM has caught up with, if not surpassed. Things like the little thumb buttons. I love being able to toggle between screens on the Garmin or the Wahoo while keeping both hands on the levers. GRX is something I'm going to put on the Scarab that I just bought a few months ago. Still need to build that up. So stay tuned on that. Shimano does not have nearly the amount of choices for gearing that SRAM does. I tease SRAM about, you being stuck with the 1046 in the back, but you've got a huge range of rings to choose from. Shimano has two. You can have a 40 or a 42. So with the new GRX wireless, I'm going to put a 46 from Wolftooth up front with a bigger cassette on the back. We'll see how that goes. Also, Shimano does not make a power meter for GRX, so I'm going with an old trusty Stages meter. I'm going with the GRX in part just to have a comparison to go back to, because so many of the bikes come with SRAM. It'd be good to have a Shimano group to go back to for context regularly. Stay tuned for that. Let's talk about the back end. A lot of gravel race bikes are trying to do a whole lot in a small space here. Chainstays are often kept short, as the bike brands want to keep a snappy, lively feeling, which I appreciate. That compromises how much tire you can get in here and or a derailleur, right? As I mentioned, this can take a 45 and has room for a derailleur. The chainstays are curved in, so I'm not hitting my heel on the stay itself, which is nice, and that's certainly something that I've got like on bikes like the Mondrake or Arid. That's more of a slacker, mountain bikey style frame in some ways, but it has very short stays, and the stays are too wide for my taste. SRAM specifies 415 as the minimum length for the chainstay, but that is for shifting performance. I feel like they should push that out a little bit more, so I stop hitting my heel on the back of the derailleur. This only happens in limited scenarios, but now that I've got it in my head, it bugs me, and it's something that I always check. Where I first noticed it was on a long descent, and then a second long descent in a race called the Apex outside of Colorado Springs. There's like a total of 11,000 feet of descending. And for most of that, I had the chain all the way down, which meant the derailleur was in its furthest point out. And my heel would step on the rear derailleur as I was ascending. I descend with my right foot back. 45 size shoes, 172.5 cranks, cleats dead center. I'm a pretty average sized footed rider, so nothing out of the ordinary there. I don't know how many of you descend with your right foot back. And again, it's not applicable across the range. It's only when the chain is down low and the derailleur comes out. Little differences can make a difference. Like a Specialized Crux has a 425 very similar bottom bracket drop. I don't hit my heel on that. I did not notice this issue in all my time riding here in Albuquerque. I think because when I was coasting on gravel, I was not all the way down in 11. When I was going that fast, like coming down from the crest road, I was on pavement and either pedaling or I just coast in not the athletic stance, right? Not to belabor the point, but one thing I try to do with my reviews is give you guys context and things to be aware of. I don't want you to end up with a bike based in part on what I talked about and then have an experience and realize, man, I wish he had told me this or that. So I don't think this is a reason to avoid the bike. It's just something to be aware of with bikes in this 420 or shorter chainstay range. So I didn't notice hitting the heel there. What I did notice on some blustery days here was the front wheel getting pushed around. 50 mil is definitely on the taller end for gravel race bikes. It's not unheard of. Personally, I like things in the 40 or lower for the front wheel. I kind of like the mismatched sizes, like the Reserve 40, 44 front and rear. Envy's got something similar. 50 feels fine most of the time, but when there's those big slapping crosswinds, it can be a little unnerving. And for me, I don't feel like the marginal gains for wintertime riding, certainly, but even in racing, the marginal gains are really worth that mental cost and even some physical cost of feeling like you're fighting the front wheel. It's not like it's a huge force, right? But you guys have experienced this if you've ridden road bikes with deep front wheels, get slapped by a stern crosswind, and it's a little unnerving. Other than that, the wheels feel great. Oquo is Orbea's house brand. You've got bladed, straight pull spokes, semi-hooked, wide rims, and it looks like a pretty decent shape for these 40 mil tires. For my money, I just want something a wee bit shorter up front. A much bigger part of the aero than the wheels is you, of course. And the rider geometry portion Orbea does very well. You've got a wealth of length and width options for the integrated cockpit, which comes on most of the models. This comes in lengths from 80, gotta look at my notes here, from 80 to 130 and from 36 up to 40. That's center to center. The flare on these is only 5%, and I was convinced that it was going inwards. I guess so many of the bikes I've been riding recently have a 10 or 12% flare that really kicks out noticeably, that just eyeballing these, it looked like the far ends were curving in. That's not the case. They're out by a couple centimeters from the center, but it feels narrow. These bars felt great, not too stiff. Definitely slick up here. I had a near oopsie wearing winter gloves, and I was fumbling trying to get a snack out or something, and instead of gripping the bar, I just sort of set the end of my hand down on the top and slipped off and had a moment of instability there. Rider error, but if this was my bike, I'd probably put like a wee bit of grip tape or something like this, or at least note to self, be careful when wearing winter gloves for the first time of the season. Critically, you can pick out which bar width and stem length you want. You've got 40 mil of potential height adjustment up front. This is cut down pretty low. My advice with these integrated bars, whether it's Orbea or any other brand, is measure thrice, buy once. And don't be afraid to pick up the phone or at least chat with the company if you're buying something online before you buy it. Like, make sure you're sure what your measurements are, what the bar's measurements are. Are we talking center to center? Are we talking outside to outside? Are we talking up here? Are we talking down here? Over communicate. And if you're not getting communication from the brand, I don't think you want to be buying a bike from a company that won't answer some basic questions. So integrated stuff, once it fits you and is dialed in, looks cool. If it doesn't fit you, it's an expensive headache at best to deal with. But with these guys, unlike Canyon, the consumer direct giant, where in the US at least, you can get any size you want as long as it's the one that came with the thing, and then if you want to change it, you're paying the cost of the product and the switch out. Here, you can set that up ahead of time, so that's a big plus mark in the Orbea comm. Also a big plus, if you like how bikes look, which is a thing for most of us, right, is being able to customize the visuals, the paint of the frame, the decals on the wheels, the little detail on the back of the frame. You could even have some text put on the down tube, and this costs you nothing. Pretty cool. Trek has its Project 1 customization project, but that definitely adds cost to the baseline bike. Here, that is included in the price. Orbea says more than 40% of its customers globally take advantage of that. A couple of the choices. Seat post, setback or straight post. A couple different saddle options. This Cell San Marco was fairly agreeable to me. Crank length, that's a nice one to be able to pick out. Now let's talk prices, models, and comparisons to other bikes. As I mentioned, Trek does offer its Project 1 customization. That adds money. This one is free. You can get other bikes for cheaper, for sure. You know, Lauf does a lot of great gravel bikes at very compelling costs, but the customization options are not nearly what you get with an Orbea. This is the tippity top, the Terra Race M11E Limited. A cool $10,500 for SRAM red build. These carbon wheels, the Oquo RP50 Limited, and then the integrated SHRA10 integrated handlebar. The Force bike with the same bar, same wheels, $6,900. A GRX Di2 2x with the same bar and wheels, $6,200. SRAM Rival, $5,700 with the same bar and wheels. And then a mechanical GRX 2x with a two-piece cockpit, but these same carbon wheels, $5,200. Of course, where you live, different markets, different currencies, that can change things quite a bit, especially with the crazy tariff situation we have going on in the US. But broadly speaking, this sits kind of mid-range in terms of comparable spec bikes. Definitely cheaper than a Trek, definitely cheaper than a Specialized. Kind of in line with a Canyon, but with more customization options, but not quite as cheap as some consumer direct brands like Lauf. So in sum, the Orbea Terra Race is a very good gravel bike for people who like to do a lot of mixed surface riding. The position is roadie friendly, it's aerodynamic. The tire clearance at 45 is enough to get you through most gravel situations, but does not go into the far end reaches of an Ari Schaefer or an Allied Able. The customization options are pretty darn incredible, frankly, for the included price, which comes in under some of the bigger players. Let me know what questions you have. Let me know what you think of this bike. I'll do my best, as always, to answer them in the comments below. Winter showed up, but now the sun is shining, so I'm gonna suit up and get out on a 3T Race Max. If I don't speak to you before the holidays, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. And I hope that whether you're riding inside or outside, you're able to push it a bit and get some endorphins going that help us all to enjoy the ride.